The alarm sounded, and the many peoples of the empire sprang to answer the call for service in the cause of liberty and justice. The men from Canada, from New Zealand, from Australia, from South Africa, and many others fell in, and the empire marches. Ships of the Royal Canadian Navy raced to their war stations to close the gaps through which an enemy might pass and help protect the seas of the Empire. Some ships took their place in northern waters, touching British ports, and sons of the sea from near and far met in the common effort against Nazism. Other men from Canada and Newfoundland began training for what was to prove the most intensive of all wars. The keynote of that training was close cooperation between all services. Troops learned cooperation with airmen, first by instructional classes and later by exercises on the ground and in the air. And presently they crossed the Atlantic to Britain, first stage on their road to victory. During the long spell of garrison duty in Britain, their training was continued and was watched with the closest interest by His Majesty the King, who has visited some of the Canadian divisions on many occasions, taking particular note of their modern equipment and their skill in handling it. The planning and execution of the raid on Spitsbergen was an excellent example of the military skill of the Canadian Army. Here, stores of vital value to the enemy were totally destroyed, and the loyal population was safely evacuated with its goods and chattels. From the Antipodes, tens of thousands of the sons of Australia and New Zealand journeyed, some to stand guard in the Middle East, and others later on to reinforce the lines in the Far East. Both were to fight in due time some of the fiercest battles that history will ever record. A battalion from the warlike race of the Maoris, who form an important part of the population of New Zealand, gained the King's especial interest. The New Zealand squadron of the Royal Navy was soon in action, and one of its units, Achilles, took a notable part in the action with the German pocket battleship Graf Spee off the South American coast. Hard knocks were given and received on both sides. Achilles had her control tower hit by an 11-inch shell, but happily the casualty list was light. After an engagement lasting 2 hours, followed by an all-day chase, the German ship entered Montevideo harbor to emerge only to be scuttled by her crew. In due time, Achilles returned to her home port, where a great welcome testified to the pride of New Zealanders in their navy. Units of the Royal Australian Navy found plenty of work in escorting troop ships from their ports on the first stage of their journeyings, while some fought in the Mediterranean battles and other actions. Mr. Anthony Eden, a lifelong champion of democracy, welcomed the men from down under as they reached Egypt. But the interlude was brief. Incessant training to meet an enemy ready to the last detail was the order of the day. Its worth has been shown in the fierce battles in Libya, where we've seen outstanding examples of modern mechanized warfare. Inspired by their own great leader, General Smuts, the people of the Union of South Africa have given themselves to the cause, and their valor has given pause to their enemies on more than one field of battle. It was General Auchinleck who brought the Indian troops to Egypt, and knowing his worth, they applauded most warmly his appointment to the command of the 8th Army. Other Indian troops took part in the campaign in East Africa, displaying the greatest skill and endurance, combined with an aptitude for warfare in difficult country. Other regiments which went to Malaya and Burma have also given proof of heroism beyond all praise. India has her own navy, which is giving of its best. The exacting work of patrols, minesweepers, and other tasks is performed in a manner worthy of the traditions of the White Ensign. The colonies and dependencies of Africa have sent their many fine native regiments into battle. Those of Nigeria, the Gold Coast, Sierra Leone, and Gambia forming the Royal West African Frontier Force, the King's African Rifles, and the battalions of Rhodesia. Their colors already bear battle honors, some hardly known outside their own countries. To them will be added many others in this second great world war. Already one empire has been liberated from the oppressor. Haile Selassie sits once more on the throne of Abyssinia. Is it not significant that from all parts of the world, men of every race, color, and creed are marching and fighting to the common end, ridding the world of a system that represents a throwback in justice, morality, and all that men have considered as progress? Emphasis is placed, and rightly, on the importance of overwhelming supplies of the machines of war. But it is to the people of the empire who will use them that the empire looks for final victory. And it is side by side with their comrades from the British Isles, those famous regiments which have been to the fore in every battle in our history, that the people of the empire march onward to that ultimate victory.